Hi everyone, very happy to meet you all in a brand new episode of Muses Me in its whole new avatar. What if boredom wasn't wasted time, but the birthplace of creativity? In this episode of Muses Me, we explore the signs of micro happiness and the surprising power of idle moments. From groundbreaking brain experiments to the daily rituals of Darwin, Beethoven, and Dalí, discover how small joys and quiet pauses can spark renewal, resilience, and hidden spark of inspiration. Inspiration hides in the ordinary. In one of the most quoted book on meditation, John Kabat-Zinn tells us that how everyday experiences often overlooked are the true ground for wisdom and transformation. Kabat-Zinn emphasizes that mindfulness is not about escaping daily rituals, but engaging with it fully. Have you ever thought about it like sitting to do a meditation? We all think that it is about escaping, but it is about engaging, being aware, being present. This could be moments of presence where you're not thinking about anything else but that moment right there. That is mindfulness. The little things, the little moments, they aren't little. That's our anchor for today's podcast. I'm here to explore science, philosophy, personal experiences, how all of this comes together to tell the same point that daily moments matter more than what we think it is. Psychologists call this micro happiness. A 2025 study in Journal of Happiness Studies identified 6 everyday sources of joy. Can you guess what are those? You'll be surprised. Very simple things like contact with nature, time with loved ones, catching up with some of the amusement or media that you like, a personal relaxation routine like a tea time or a short nap in the afternoon, daily chores like cooking, cleaning, organizing, rituals around coffee and tea where you spend time with your loved ones. These aren't grand milestones, but they are repeated, reliable, and they build resilience. So let's dwell a bit on why these factors matter, right? There are three things that we can call out clearly. One is frequency over intensity. Unlike major life events like a graduation or promotion, these micro happiness occurs every day. That makes them reliable and you know that this is there for you every single day. And cumulative effect. Repeated small joys accumulate over time and this gives an emotional resilience. They act like deposits, say, in your well being bank and helping you cope with stress and the other day to day stuff that can hinder you. The third thing is balance of hedonic and eudaimonic well being. These things provide both immediate pleasure as well as like a deeper meaning, like a ritual on a purpose. So together they create a balanced foundation for happiness. So think about how universally joyful a cup of morning tea or coffee should be, right? And it's the same. It's same for most of us. It's not about the caffeine, right? Here it's that warmth, it's that ritual, and it's that I'm ready for the day kind of sense that comes out of it. So let's go a bit deeper, right? Neuroscience adds another layer to this whole understanding. So studies by Kennedy and Hermans in 2025 and Science Array show that boredom activates the brain's default mode network. So the default mode network is what? This is a system that sparks creativity and problem solving when we are not focusing on any external tasks. So that's why you see when you are walking or having a shower or simply staring out of a window, ideas emerge. And this is just not theory, right? In 2024, neuroscientists used stereo EEG to record brain activity during creative thought process. And they found that the so called default mode network, the system that lights up when you are bored, was actively connecting ideas in new ways. In other words, that means that boredom isn't wasted time, it's the brain's secret creative engine. History also proves this. Let me take few examples. So Darwin had a daily walking ritual on his thinking path at dawn house. These repetitive strolls gave him the quiet space to process the ideas that shaped on the origin of species. This illustrates how ordinary repeated moments can lead to extraordinary breakthroughs. It's not just Darwin, right? Beethoven was meticulous about his morning coffee. He counted exactly 60 beans for each cup. This ritual grounded him and became part of his creative rhythm, a perfect example of micro happiness through ritual. So, happiness and clarity are not found in the extraordinary, but in the rhythm of daily life and the quiet spaces in between. I remember one afternoon when I was restless and then scrolling endlessly, one of my friends told me, boredom is a new way to engage. You need to get accustomed to it if you want to be more creative. And I was like, what? No way. But later, a couple of days afterwards, when I was sitting in silence and I was looking at the rain, having a warm cup of tea in my hands, suddenly a gush of ideas flowed through me. And that was when I realized, yeah, he's true. Let me talk about one more experiment that was done in 2016 by Dankert and Merrifield. The psychologists tested boredom in the lab. Participants were asked to do repetitive, unstimulated tasks, copying text or watching dull videos. Their attention networks quietened down, but at that same moment, their default mode network became more active. That shift from outward focus to inward processing is why boredom often sparks reflection and new ideas. It is the same reason you might suddenly solve a problem while folding laundry or staring out of the window. Victor Hugo did something very similar. He often stared out at the sea for hours, letting his mind wander. That idle time, what we might call boredom, was when many of his creative insights emerged. Even Winston Churchill credited his daily naps and long baths with helping him think clearly during wartime. So, when we are talking about creating new ideas, I would also emphasize on one important thing: letting go of a few things that don't serve you anymore. That pent up anger, that resentment, the doubt, or a lot of these thoughts that are stuck in our mind that are going to not serve us anymore, they stop us from taking that big small step towards a tiny change. Just as daily joys accumulate into resilience, there's one more thing that we need to keep in mind. Daily shedding of burdens creates space for growth. Neuroscience tells us that the brain thrives on renewal. New connections form when we release old patterns. And mindfulness reminds us that awareness is not only about noticing, but also about choosing what to carry forward. I once kept a plant that refused to grow. I watered it, gave it sunlight, but nothing changed. Finally, I repotted it, removed the old soil, gave it fresh space. Within weeks, it flourished. Sometimes we are like that plant. We don't need more water, we need to let go of the soil that no longer nourishes us. Benjamin Franklin understood this well. He kept a strict daily schedule with time logged for reflection and moral perfection. His practice of renewal wasn't dramatic, it was daily, intentional, and transformative. So, whether it's resentment, doubts, or even clutter in your room, letting go is as important as adding new feathers. It's a balance of release and renewal that makes daily life lighter. So, think about it. What burden could you release today to make space for something new? Let's take a moment together. If you're listening this while multitasking, that's fine. But if you can, pause for just a minute. Close your eyes, soften your gaze, take a deep breath in, and let it out slowly. Now, think of one small joy from today. It could be the warmth of your morning tea, the sound of birds outside, or even a smile you exchanged with someone. Hold that moment in your mind. Notice how it feels. Let it expand. And now, think of one small burden you've been carrying. Maybe a worry, a doubt, or a lingering frustration. Picture it as a feather that no longer serves you. With your next exhale, imagine letting it go. Watch it drift away. Breathe in and breathe out. This is your big small step, noticing one joy and letting go of one burden. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It's a practice of renewal every single day. John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness teaching reminds us that mindfulness means moment to moment, non judgmental awareness. This is not about escaping the daily messiness, but engaging it with fully. Washing dishes, sipping tea, walking, all can be gateways to presence. So, this is where philosophy meets science. Micro happiness shows us the psychological impact of small joys. The default mode network showed us the neuroscientific impact of boredom and stillness. Kabat-Zinn shows us the spiritual impact of presence. Together, they tell us that the ordinary is extraordinary. Salvador Dalí even turned boredom into an art. He practiced micro naps by holding a spoon and letting it drop as he drifted off. The sudden wake up gave him surreal, dreamlike ideas, proof that the in between stage, the boredom, the silence, can be the birthplace of creativity. So, today I invite you to pause. No phone, no noise. Just observe one small joy. A sip of coffee, a smile, the rustle of leaves. Write it down and celebrate it. And then take one step further. Let go of one small burden, a worry, a resentment, a doubt. Release it. That's your big small step. I once kept a tiny joyous journal. One entry in that just said, the smell of jasmine at night. And another said, the way a butterfly went past me when I was just about to go out of my house. Reading back, I realized those were the real treasures. So maybe start your own tiny joys journal, one line a day. Over time, you will see how much richness the day and the life holds. The little things aren't little, they are the life itself. And today, you have already begun to notice them. Thank you for listening to Muses Me. And we meet next time. Keep well, keep safe, and keep smiling.